it was thank you. It was amazing to think that that was released 7 years ago now. It felt like it could have been released today, which I think is often the mark of a good piece of documentary filmmaking. So we have a little time now for a little question and answer, and we're going to talk about the film and also all things Rise Up. So if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat on the side, and we'll try to grab some. And people put in some questions with their registrations too, so I have a few now. And I just wanted to start with Candy and Polly. I mean, you talked a little beforehand about how your idea for this came about, but if you want to talk more about that, and also, what felt important to you about making this movie then, and what feels important now about it to you?
Hmm. Well, I'll say a little bit more about the circumstances. There was I in 2008, right after the financial crash, 2007, 2008. The New York Times did a story on a community outside, I think it was East Lansing, Michigan. It was in the, part of the world where they were stopped making cars because of the financial crisis. People were out of work. It's a very depressed time. And the article was about a community that was getting together to sing every month. And they were singing out of Rise Up Singing. And that community and that activity kept people going. I mean, it was really made a huge difference to them. Um, and it just struck me as such a poignant story and says so much about community. It says a lot about what singing can do for a society. So having grown up and, carried Rise Up Singing, my own tattered copy
Mhm.
around for decades, and I had a kind of family connection to Peter, I think, particular. So I managed to find how to contact them. It wasn't that
Mhm.
hard. And they were very receptive to this idea of me making a film about them. And it took a couple of years, probably 2 or 3 years, before I actually was ready to shoot anything. But the first shoot was at Pete Seeger's house. So it was pretty amazing. Um, and what else can I tell you? That and it kind of just, as many documentaries do, you kind of find your story as you make the
Mhm.
and Candy was a big part of the sort of shaping of the film and how best to convey the story. But documentaries are journalistic enterprises. You're basically reporting. You're looking for the story. You're looking for the through line. What is the significance of this? Why do people do what they do? So Annie and Peter were clearly, I wanted to tell the story of the book, but Annie and Peter were the reason the book exists. And Pete Seeger played a huge role as well, but they were the two people that made this happen. Just like I got the film made, they got the book made. So, um, yeah, I don't know if that answers all your questions, but
That's great. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, Candy, I'd love to hear, a little bit what your role was in making the film, but also, yeah, if there, um, things that really felt important to you about the film now and then.
Yeah. Well, first of all, seeing the film again, just
Yeah.
in the context of the last few weeks, is just overwhelming. And again, it brought tears to my eyes, as it always does, but it's consistently relevant. Um, my involvement, I mean, I was shooting another film, and Polly was getting ready to film at Pete Seeger's house, and I was very, very excited for her. And she had told me that she had wanted to tell the story about the people who were making this new book, who were trying to shape a new book. And then all the footage came together, and it's very hard. I mean, Polly's right that a lot of it is a journalistic exercise, but it's also an artistic exercise. It's also something where you have to weave disparate information together, and you have to weave various narratives together in a little more complex way than a straight journalistic story that you read in the newspaper. So I came in two ways. I had brought my editor that I had worked with, who's a renowned editor in Canada, and is a consummate storyteller, as with a sense of musicality and the aesthetics around. She was a photographer as well. And I think for me, in terms of helping shape the story, what Polly was alluding to earlier, is that the personal stories of Annie and Peter, the background stories about what drove them to use singing as a component tool to the issues that they felt passionate about, the personal stories, is where I really came in, and that's where our dialogue started to take shape in writing how the narrative would be portrayed, and how do you just not stick to the telling about the shaping of the book, but what it is about these people and why the book is formed that way, and what are the issues that concern them and that speak to the rest of the public that you are, everybody sitting here and watching this cares about. And so that was to create a more personal relationship with, I mean, Polly, correct me if I'm wrong, but it is to create a more personal, visceral relationship with the characters and the issues and the book that was being formed. And in particular, weaving the personal lives of the triad that you actually see in the story, in the film.
Yeah, and we had basically, no budget, no real funding. So it took a long time to shoot, in part because we just didn't have the money to go shoot and follow them around, Annie and Peter around much. So we had to budget where we would go film them and what piece of the story it could tell. But it really is a story that shot over at least 5 years. So as we got information, we realized by the third shoot, or the third major interview with them, I would say, the things we hadn't covered yet, the things we needed to tell the story that Candy just alluded to. So it helped in a way because we could build the story as we went. But it was just made, by hook or by crook as we could make it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, you did a wonderful job with it.
And we had a fabulous editor. She's an equal part in the art of it, for sure.
Yeah.
And the story, it's my experience anyway, that you find a large degree, you find your story in the edit room. And it's all a bunch of footage, hours and hours and hours of footage. And in 4 months in the edit room, you have a story. And it's that, focused attempt to work all those elements and that magic, and out comes a story, which you don't go into the edit room knowing exactly what that story is. So it's a real process of discovery. And we did, that's how it always seems to work. But
I just want to add,
not in scripted narrative films, but in documentary.
That I just want to add that even while editing, things were happening in real time. So the Women's March, things were happening in real time that Annie and Peter were committed to and were involved in. And also in terms of our worldviews, Polly and mine, things were happening that were expressing themselves in such a way that it wasn't just going to be a past recording, a retrospective. It was going to be something that could be relevant at all times. And as we see today, it's still consistently, I think, promotes that idea that this is, in some ways, it's unfortunately timeless, and in some ways, it's fortunately timeless, because the idea of community will always be something that is eternal. And then the issues that we're dealing with, on the world stage and with civil rights and all of these things that we're dealing with immigration, that's unfortunately something that we have to be consistently vigilant about. And that's we tied that into the way the story was told.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, definitely, it felt very fresh and alive. Yeah, as you said, both fortunately and unfortunately. And um, I wanted to, Annie and Peter, this is for you a little, but also for Candy and Polly, if you want to jump in, just it felt really like a lot of the message of the movie and of your work too was just talking about how can we get everybody singing, as many people as possible involved with this. It's a really powerful tool and process. And I wonder if you had some thoughts about, for people who want to engage in that work of like, we got a bunch of questions about, I want to get a sing together in my town, or I want to start this up, or how do you do it? And, if you have any tips or things you've learned over the years, it'd be great to hear.
Well, I'll put a couple links right now in the chat. We've worked hard to have some resources on our website that help with organizing, and I put a link for our it's riseupsinging.org, and on there we have a database called the Music Box where you can learn by listening to various videos, all the songs in Rise Up Singing, all the songs in Rise Again, and hundreds of other songs that have been written since. Thousands, really. It's a huge database. And somebody said to me recently that it was such a gift to them because they wanted to, you don't have the notation for most songs that are in Rise Up Singing. We went for lyrics and putting as many songs in as possible. And if we had done the musical notation, it would have like drastically changed that. Then the other thing we have on our website, we have lots of themed song lists. And today it's really great to go on there and we like a topic struggle. I put that in the chat. If you click on that, it's just a lot of songs to get you thinking. If you're going to get together with some other people and you want to sing at a protest or whatever. And then lastly, we started a long time ago putting various sing-alongs that we know about that are open to the public all across Canada and the United States. And so those lists are by region on our website, and I put a link for that in the chat too.
There's been a real change in the culture in America around music. When I was a child, we all sang in our classrooms with music teachers. Well, most of the music teachers are gone. People sang in their churches. People sang at camps. And obviously it does happen to some extent today, like in churches, synagogues. But it's much less common. Many more people are passive listeners than they were, I think, when I was a child, when Annie was a child. And these sing-along groups that have sprung up, especially since Rise Up Singing, made a big difference, I think, in contributing to that, are a kind of a pushback against that tendency to be passive listeners, to only listening to professional singers. I can't emphasize how much Pete Seeger was committed to the idea of building a culture of communal singing. He talked about that in the film. And he really, whenever you went to a Pete Seeger concert, if any of you had, I'm sure many of you probably had the privilege of doing that, he turned the concert into a sing-along. He would be teaching songs in Swahili, he would be teaching them in Russian, he'd be teaching them in Spanish, and had all these people who didn't even maybe think they could sing at all, and they were not only singing, they were singing songs they'd never heard of before in many cases. And it was incredible. And so that's why he was constantly at concerts saying things like, if you want to do this after you go home, check out this book, Rise Up Singing, and see if there's a group in your town where people sing together. Because that's why he wanted to be a musician. And particularly around the groups like union people, people of color, children. Those were the groups that he wanted to work with more than anything else, to get people singing together.
Yeah, that's wonderful. We had some people write in with questions too about just what it was like to, work with Pete, both for you guys, also for Candy and Polly too.
I have,
Everybody has their Pete story, whether it was listening to him as a child on a record, or going to see him, or you know, giving him a ride at a festival and having him not talk. He was incredibly shy. He was not a talker. Unless you got him started by asking him a question. You asked a simple question, he wouldn't shut up. But if he got in the car because you're giving a ride, yeah, it was pretty funny.
Pete Seeger was the real deal. You know, what you saw on sometimes, you know, people on stage have a different persona than they are in person. Pete was entirely available to anybody who came up to him. He would go every week to the peace vigil in town. Anybody just came up to him and started to talk to him, he'd talk to you. You know, he'd run into you in the grocery store, bus, anywhere. Um, and the thing is about Pete, we didn't really work that closely with him. His manager really, really helped. He got Sing Out to publish Rise Up Singing. His manager got permissions for hundreds and hundreds of songs that we never thought we'd get permission for because he had relationships with those people. But about 5 years after Sing Out came out, Rise Up Singing came out, I got a call from Harold Leventhal saying, his manager saying, come to New York. We want to have a talk with you. And Pete will be there. You know, who could refuse that? So I took the bus up to New York and we met in a restaurant. And Harold said, Enya just recorded How Can We Keep From Singing? And we lost a huge suit because it wasn't established that one of Pete's friends had written the last verse to How Can We Keep From Singing? So we want to make a song of Pete's songs, a collection. And the thing is, Pete said, I'm not very interested in a songbook, but I would be willing to tell the story of my journey with song, and you can put the songs in too. And he said, but I'll only do it if you let that Peter Blood be the editor, because I like the way he worked on Rise Up Singing. And for the next year or year and a half, I worked with Pete on his autobiography, Where Have All the Flowers Gone, which is sadly out of print. But what that meant was our family went up to a lot of those pictures, you know, of the house that were in the movie. We went up there countless times because of working on the songbook, and even the family would come and we'd have birthday parties there and stuff like that. So I just can't emphasize how much difference I think Pete made in the world, and how much difference he absolutely was central to both of these songbooks.
That's wonderful. Yeah, thanks for those stories, and yeah, thanks to all four of you for really, I mean, continuing Pete's legacy, and also, you know, forging ahead with our own that we're we're forging every moment here.
I just want to say real quick,
Please.
when we made Rise Up Singing, it came out in 1988, so we worked on it for 2 years before that, and we had one of our sons was two when the songbook when we were working on the songbook, and then eventually we had another son, and so life was chaotic and crazy, and I think what Pete showed us and mentored was that don't worry about how messy your house is. If you have a passion and you have something calling to you that just makes you just like you have to do it, don't worry about the fact that you burned last night's dinner and the kids' clothes are all over the floor. Just try and do it, and see who you can get to join you. And so with Rise Up Singing, just like with all the things we've done, so many people helped. So many people, including people who aren't with us anymore today, put so much time into it. I know my some of my family are here. My sister, my mother. We had everybody because we were there was no internet.
Right.
It was
Right.
it was DOS programs, the computer. Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to share that
Yeah, it's been
sometimes, and of course everything's too small. You can't read it. You need a magnifying glass. And what the heck? We pitched a lot of songs too high, but it was just this massive, massive project, and we just wanted to get it out there. So we figure, okay, there'll be mistakes, and Pete was the first one to encourage that, and Toshi too. His wife Toshi was a huge part of this. So I just wanted to share that with folks here today because we get to be human and still attempt to make some good happen in the world with each other.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
I would like to point out for those of us who now need reading glasses, there is a larger print edition of Red Dead
Very
Singing,
important. Yeah.
which is extremely important, and I am enjoying it greatly because I can sing without my reading glasses on. So thank you for doing that.
It's not large enough.
We can make it. We could always make a larger print.
It's not. We're working
Annie,
on trying to get an app. It's going to take a while. I'm sorry, everybody.
Annie, I just need you to stand next to me with those giant cue cards like on Saturday Night Live.
Woo! Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
So we sing some songs. What do you think?
I think it's time. Let's do it.
Okay.
No, I think that we hit a bunch of the questions, and I think it's time to do some more singing. I'll just say one thing people asked a bunch I saw was, is there a way to see this film? They want to show it around, and we'll send an email out to everyone who registered with information about all of that coming up.
Great.
But now let's get into some more singing.
I just want to make sure we put in the chat the way to check out Polly and Candy's website, because they've done another film about singing in community that is so spectacular, and I really want to encourage people to check that out, and it's such a moving story. The other one's very, very beautiful and just stunning. And I just wanted to give a plug for that before we get into
That's great.
too much.
Yeah, I'll drop that at the end so it doesn't get lost in the song lyrics I'm about to throw into the message box, since sharing is difficult. We are going to be on Isn't It Nice, I believe, correct? Page 61 from Rise Up Singing. Ooh. And I put it in the chat.
Can you guys hear us now? We switched over to another way. Okay.
So anyway, this is Melvin Reynolds' song, and very relevant for today. You're doing banjo, Annie.
Okay. Let's give me a note. It is nice to block the doorway. It is, we said we'd say page 61 in Rise Up Singing. Okay. It is nice to block the doorway. It is nice to go to jail. There are nicer ways to do it, but the nice ways always fail. It isn't nice, it isn't nice. You told us once, you told us twice. But if that is freedom's price, we don't mind. Just sing on that part if you don't get anything else. If that is freedom's price, we don't mind. Okay? It is nice to carry banners, or to sit in on the floor, or to shout a cry of freedom at the hotel and the store. It isn't nice, it isn't nice. You told us once, you told us twice. But if that is freedom's price, we don't mind. We have tried negotiation and 3-person picket lines. Mr. Charlie didn't see us. Well, he might as well be blind. Now our new ways aren't so nice when we deal with men of ice. And then that is freedom's price. We don't mind. Yeah! How about those years of lynching and the shot in Evers' back? Did you say it wasn't proper? Did you stand out on the track? You were quiet just like mice. Now you say that we aren't nice. Well, if that is freedom's price, we don't mind. Sing with us. It's nice to block the doorway. It is nice to go to jail. There are nicer ways to do it, but the nice ways always fail. It isn't nice. It isn't nice. Well, thank you for the advice. But if that is freedom's price, we don't mind. And if that is freedom's price, we don't mind. Yes. We don't.
Written by Malvina Reynolds. I think Peter must have said that and I wasn't listening.
You were. So this one is on page 259. It's in the work chapter, and we are members of the Traveling Musicians Union, Local 1000, American Federation of Musicians. And this is Woody Guthrie's classic song about the Union Maid. We're doing it in C if you're playing along, and I'm playing full apparently.
All right. Ugh. Oh boy. As usual, as per usual, the banjo is, it doesn't like it doesn't like to stay in tune. Usually when we do a concert, I'll say, banjo support group during the intermission. But tonight we just have
no intermission. Somebody, I don't have the name in front of me, it says it right up singing, wrote a new verse. The original last verse by Woody Guthrie was about the ladies' auxiliary. Kind of sexist. We got a great new final verse.
Oh, there once was a Union maid who never was afraid of the goons and the ginks and the company finks and the deputy sheriffs who made the raid. She went to the Union Hall when a meeting it was called. And when the company boys came round, she always, this is your part. Oh, you can't scare me, I'm sticking with the Union. Sticking with the Union, I'm sticking with the Union. Oh, you can't scare me, I'm sticking with the Union. Sticking with the Union, till the day I die. This Union maid was wise to the tricks of the company spies. She couldn't be fooled by a company stool. She'd always organize the guys. She always got her way. When she struck for better pay, she'd show her card to the National Guard, and this is what she'd say. Oh, you can't scare me, I'm sticking with the Union. Sticking with the Union. Sticking with the Union. No, you can't scare me, I'm sticking with the Union. Sticking with the Union till the day I die. All right, as we're singing this song, I encourage you, look around your Zoom window, take a wander, take a mosey on over to another page, check out the people on that page. We're all in this together. You women who want to be free, take a little tip from me. Break out of that mold we've all been sold. You've got a fighting history, the fight for women's rights. With workers must unite. Like Mother Jones, move those bones to the front of every fight. You can't scare me, I'm sticking with the Union. Sticking with the Union. Sticking with the Union. Sticking with the Union. You can't scare me, I'm sticking with the Union. Sticking with the Union. One more time. Oh, you can't scare me, I'm sticking with the Union. Sticking with the Union. Sticking with the Union. I think Pete's probably made a union in heaven, or wherever he is in the
Art
osmos.
Players Union.
So we can change that last line. Sticking with the union forever.
So we've got to do at least one Pete Seeger song. I think we might be doing two, depending on how it goes time-wise. But this one is one of his songs that got picked up by one of those folk rock bands. It's Turn, Turn, Turn. And
You mean the Birds?
yeah, the Birds. And a great movie called Echo Canyon about that, I think. Anyway, when we started touring with Emma's Revolution, they used the Birds chords. And we found this kind of rocked using the Birds chords. So we're going to do the Birds chords rather than the Pete Seeger chords to this. See if you like it.
We've changed
Page 228. 228.
We changed a word.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
The second verse.
Second verse.
Oh, the first verse,
first verse. Yeah, first verse. Instead of a time to kill, we have changed it a time to break. We just don't want to see any more killing. And I know it's, there's killing in nature and in the garden, but it's just our choice. Sing whatever you want. You're in your own rooms, in your own homes. Let's see. too, eh?
Yeah, probably an A.
Yeah.
Douglas said A.
So, Peter, what's your earliest memory of singing this song?
Oh my God. I used to listen to Pete Seeger albums back in the the 60s, Vietnam War period. And of course, this song the words are almost literally word for Ecclesiastes. So on the cover of Where Have All the Flowers Gone, he had a picture of all the people he worked with to make the songs. And somewhere in the corner of that picture is a funny imaginary picture of what Ecclesiastes would have looked like, the guy who wrote that book. Anyway, I don't know. I can't remember when I first sang it. Probably in high school.
Well, I remember, I grew up in a musical family, and I will try not to hit your eye with my banjo. And I remember my big sister, who's here tonight. She had a collection of songs. Everybody had collections of songs on this was the 60s and 70s, mimeographed pieces of paper or handwritten. So I do remember singing this one pretty early on. That's as good as it's gonna get. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to break, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. A time of love, a time of love, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace, a time you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time for love, a time for hate, a time for peace. I swear it's not too late. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. Yay, a classic. Good job. Good job singing, everybody.
You want to do a Lori Wyatt song, Annie?
Do we have time for a couple more?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to sing till you tell us to stop.
That's right. And I
mean,
If you-
that will be never.
if you're at home and you gotta take a bio break or stretch, I encourage stretching or getting up and moving, whatever you gotta do.
This is the classic Clearwater song. They cleaned up the Hudson. You can now swim in the Hudson. There are fish that live in the Hudson. Used to be polluted terribly.
So this is one of Pete's favorites that he did. Lori Wyatt actually a wonderful songwriter, a friend, lives near us, Shelburne Falls. He'd go up to Pete's house and they would collaborate on a bunch of songs. So this song is kind of an echo, but then there's a part where I'll sing one part and you'll sing the opposite, but you'll see, Peter will do it. You ready? Here we go. Sailing up, sailing up, sailing down, up, down, down, up, up and down the river, sailing on, stopping all along the way. The river may be dirty now, but it's getting cleaner every day. People come, people go. Well, come, go, up and down the river, sailing on, stopping all along the way. Sailing up the river may be dirty now, but it's getting cleaner every day.
Garbage here, garbage there.
Garbage here,
Garbage here,
garbage there.
garbage there.
Here, there,
Here.
up and down the river, oh, sailing all along the way, sailing up, sailing up the river, may be dirty now, but it's getting cleaner every day.
Catching fish, catching hell.
Catching fish,
Catching fish,
catching hell,
catching hell.
fish,
Hell, fish.
up and down the river, sailing on, stopping all along the way, sailing up, sailing up. The river may be dirty now, it's getting cleaner every day. All right, one more verse. Singing here,
Singing here,
singing there.
singing there.
Well, here,
There,
there,
here.
up and down the river, sailing on, dropping all along the way.
Sailing up.
The river may be dirty now, but it's getting cleaner every day. Oh, let's do the first verse one more time. Sailing up,
Sailing up.
sailing down, sailing down, up, down, up and down the river, sailing on, stopping all along the way. Oh, don't stop now, the river may be dirty now, but it's getting cleaner every day. Whoa, the river may be dirty now, but it's getting cleaner every day. I don't know what that was.
We had a special request from Whitney for a song.
Yes.
It's not in Rise Up Singing, it's in Rise Again, which you probably don't have with you. So maybe you're going to have to put up the lyrics for this one on the screen. It's called The Rainbow Connection. And Annie, tell them why you love this song so
I
much.
will. A lot of people love this song. Oh, here. Peter needs a capo. So, too bad we don't ever have any fun. Oh. You know what? Once you bring out a banjo and a guitar and a couple goofy people, nothing can keep you from having some fun. And I have a philosophy. I gotta do it. I gotta have some singing and some fun, so that I can get back out. You know, and that's what hopefully has happened here today with everybody. You know.
Back to the marches.
So we're going to do a song here. A lot of people love it. We learned it from Kermit, Rainbow Connection.
Did Kermit write this song?
No. A couple people. Paul Williams, Kenneth Asher, I think.
Willie Nelson sang it with Kermit. That's a beautiful video. You can find
so
in the
pretty.
music box. Them singing together.
You know, so one of the reasons I love this song, and there's so many, but I love the last verse. Have you been half asleep, and have you heard voices? I've heard them calling my name. I just feel like, okay, when we're hearing a truth, and it just is knocking on our door, maybe in our dreams, maybe in the middle of the day, maybe we're doing dishes, and it just doesn't shut up, and you're like, okay, what are you saying? And then it goes, is this a sweet sound that calls the young sailors, the voice might be one and the same. And then the line, I've heard it too many times to ignore it. I feel like, okay, this song, all right, this is like about a leading, like, yeah, and it's about truth and listening for the truth. So let's do this one.
You could probably share screen for this one, Whitney,
If you want,
because they probably don't have Rise Again with them.
It's just one of these ones. Just sing along and let your inner Kermie come out.
The lyrics are in the chat for those of you who don't know Rainbow Connection.
Oh, there you go. That's great. That's great. Then we can look at each other. Best way to use Zoom for a sing-along is making sure everybody can see each other and just find a square, send some love, find another square, send some love, find your own square, send yourself some love. All right, I know I've got family here today, so this is for my wonderful cousins, my family here, and just everybody who you think of who's encouraged you to sing, whether it was early on or just yesterday. Why are there so many songs about rainbows? What's on the other side? Rainbows are visions, but only illusions. Rainbows have nothing to hide. So we've been told, and some choose to believe it. I know the wrong, wait and see. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Who said that every wish would be heard and answered when wished on the morning star? Somebody thought of that and someone believed it. Look what it's done so far. What's so amazing that keeps us stargazing? And what do we think we might see? Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. All of us under its spell. We know that it's probably magic. Who said, oh, have you been half asleep? And have you heard voices? I've heard them calling my name. Is this the sweet sound that calls the young sailors? The voice might be one and the same. I've heard it too many times to ignore it. It's something that I'm supposed to be. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Beautiful.
Thank you so
Smashing
much.
Pumpkins, Whitney, is that the last song?
That's our last one, I believe.
I'm
Yeah, I
I'm
think that
sorry,
was
Yes,
it.
you're the
it is.
timekeeper, Whitney.
It's okay. And I did cry. I told you I would.
Oh,
So
good. We love that. We all need a good cry right now.
Those were perfect. Well, yeah, this was just too much fun. I think we're gonna have to do this again at some point for sure and do some more singing. But we're coming to the end of our time, and I just wanted to say a few things. Just plug, you can get the book. Rise Up Singing in large print or regular print is available on the CDSS store site. So is Rise Again Singing. You can also get those directly from Peter and Annie from their site, and they have really like a lot of great resources. Make sure to check out those resources on their site. And a bunch of people asked about how do you know how the songs go? And there's a lot on their site that's helpful there in the music box. So check that out for sure. And we're just so excited, me personally, but also CDSS. The reason we started this collaboration really is we're now the publisher of Rise Up Singing. And that was, as Sing Out was the publisher, and as they are winding down, we're looking for a new home to be the publisher. And Annie and Peter reached out to me, and I said, I dropped everything. I said, yes. How do we, how do we make this happen? I didn't ask my boss first. I said, yeah, we'll find a way to make this happen. So it's been great to do that, and that's mostly about finding a way to keep this going for the next generation, the next
Yes.
10 generations, and
And
it's
listen,
it's
I
been a
just want to
pleasure.
say, Ben, I really think so. We were lucky enough to put in our contract with Sing Out that we got to choose the organization in case they went under. And I think the Seegers, both Pete and Toshi, would be really, really happy that CDSS has taken on publishing this book because it's it's something Pete believed in, and Pete and Toshi, they went to bat for us all those years ago and said to Sing Out Magazine, you need to publish this book. And so now we look around and we know that for those of people who don't know about Country Dance and Song Society, please go visit their website, check out what they're doing. This organization is so fantastic. It is just thriving all across this country and in Canada. And I mean, you can just say more to it, Ben, but we're really, really happy that we're in it together.
I just wanted to say two or three words about some of the stuff on our website before we leave, which
Please, yeah.
there are things about how to form a sing-along group and how to get permissions and all kinds of things. But the thing that I think is the most valuable is that people want to learn songs. And not only do we have a section of themes, like songs about racial justice, songs about lullabies, all kinds of things, putting people to sleep. If you go into the song search under the music box, you can put any name of any song in Rise Up Singing or Rise Again or If I Had a Hammer, our Pete Seeger book, and it will show you sometimes one or two and sometimes as many as a dozen or 15 different recordings by different artists of their interpretations of the song. And you could even scroll through a chapter of Rise Up Singing or Rise Again, and just if you get a given song and say next down at the bottom of the page, you can go to the next song and spend an afternoon just learning the songs in that chapter. So please check out the music box under the song tab on our website, and you'll no longer have an excuse to not know those 2,400 songs.
That's perfect. Thank you both so much. And Whitney, if you got something to wrap it up.
I did. I just wanted to tell you, this very morning, I am delighted to announce our next sing-along will be in May with Jacob Chen. It is going to be all spring themed, and we are in talks to do one every quarter. And I'm trying to get Windborne for Yule season. So I would love for everyone to come back and sing with us again. This has been an absolute delight today. And after quite the weekend we had, I think this is maybe what we all needed. So thank you all so very much for coming. There'll be an email that'll come out. Fingers crossed, Outlook is working tomorrow. There'll be a email coming out with links to the documentaries, to the books, to the music box, to CDSS, to our camps where you can sing and sing and sing. And I hope to see you all again in May, and have everyone stay warm, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.
Check
So,
on your
Thank you so
neighbors.
much.
Thank you, everybody.
good
Bye.
night.